Hey, White Sox fans, guess what? As promised, as guaranteed, it is podcast number 117 on the mothership, delivered to you on the Monday morning promised. Enjoy it. It's all you have today. There's nothing else going on at all on this Monday as we wait for Cleveland to come into town to play the series of the century. It's still early in the century, I guess. It's the last stand, as Jackie Crestel put it in the recap on Sunday. It is the last stand for the White Sox. They will be either 3 or 4 games out when Cleveland comes to town. It seems maybe more likely they'll be 4 out, but at any rate, 1 loss sort of adds extra game to how far behind they are because there goes the tiebreaker. But of course, huge momentum swing. If the White Sox can manage to win, I won't say 2, certainly a sweep. Really nice momentum swing for the White Sox. It's possible, I suppose. And I have 4 of your very favorite South Side Sox. Well, I guess I'm one of the 4. How about 3 of your very favorite White Sox, South Side Sox personalities, writers, podcasters, etc., with me to discuss the possibilities of the White Sox? I don't know, sweeping, getting swept. Just depends on what color the mood ring is showing at this moment here. I have Joe Resis, straight out Indianapolis, Jordan Hass, from parts unknown. No, certainly are representing some closer to West Coast Soxdom, and of course Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, who is just representing Illinois. Come on, we gotta have some Chicago area person, and Chicago area. I know Melissa is pushing it. Okay, well, 2 out of 3 against Detroit. Which is great, but you win 2 out of 3 and you still manage to lose ground, at least at the moment, pending the 5th game between Cleveland and Minnesota. I guess let's do a quick check-in. How's everybody feeling? I think yesterday Joe may have given up. I'm not sure, but maybe he's going to take this time to recover. Where are we feeling going into this series of the century, or at least the season?
Yeah, the situation got a little bit worse since the time we spoke last, despite, as you said, winning the series in Detroit, which after the first game looked very, very bleak. And I mean, really, things still are looking that way. So Fangraphs has them at 15% probability to make the playoffs. 538 has them almost exactly the same. They have them at 14%. Not impossible, but it's still very much a long shot, and it's difficult to see a route for them to make it without a sweep of Cleveland. So, I mean, yeah, it seems kind of like, Sunday was a little bit of the hammer's final descent on the last nail of the coffin, like being delayed a little bit with the Twins finally beating the Guardians in a baseball game, unbelievably, and the White Sox taking care of business in Detroit. But yeah, without the tiebreaker, it's still going to be very tough. And they'll just have to take it 1 game at a time, and maybe they'll be able to work some of their Miguel Cairo magic, but still not looking too great.
Yeah, not a lot of dog in those Minnesota Twins. Go figure. Soft. Okay, Jordan, Melissa, where are you feeling?
I've never hated the state of Minnesota more. Like we're good. We've been playing good baseball. It's the fact that the Twins have lost 8 of their last 9 games to Cleveland, which have all come in this miraculous turnaround since Miguel Cairo's taken the helm. It's like, come on, guys, give us something. I know you don't like us, but you should not like Cleveland more, please. I'm just, it's exhausting to be like, hey, we're actually winning for once, and now we're totally screwed unless we sweep. Which, I mean, it's possible. I think 2 out of 3. If Cleveland loses tomorrow and we could take 2 out of 3, I think we'd still have like a 1 in 4 chance, a 25% chance. But I mean, we have to sweep Cleveland, and that, I mean, their bullpen is obliterated after 25 innings yesterday. a bunch of innings today, probably some more tomorrow. Maybe we can take advantage of that. But we've also proven that we can't hit minor league pitching for some reason.
Yeah.
So I guess
as the cup gets potentially even less empty, we're going to move over to Melissa and her take and where she's feeling, or maybe who knows, there could be a curveball coming. Melissa, how you feeling?
I don't know. The roller coaster really made me pretty ill this weekend. Friday's game was really tough, and I think losing that one right out the gate was kind of deflating. And then the stress of yesterday's game, and then watching the Cleveland game, and then the Twins, like really, like they won on an error. Like that's such a White Sox thing. And I am pessimistic, I guess, going into the Cleveland series, because it's hard to sweep any team, which we've proven. I mean, we've played good ball, but we didn't sweep, Seattle, and we didn't sweep the A's, and we couldn't sweep the Tigers, so it's hard to sweep any team. And Cleveland is really, really good. I mean, they are going to be pretty tired, which is to our advantage, but also now we have more pitchers on the IL. So, or not on the IL, but injured anyway, and taking days off. So, it's just, I think it's a really, really rough battle ahead. And I don't know if I see a whole lot of light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe a barf bag at the end of the roller coaster.
Yeah, really. The Pepto-Bismol crew. Okay. The White Sox have not, based on, I don't know, Johnny Cueto's lightheadedness, has Ozzie made a joke about him being hungover. There is nobody listed right now, not that they have to, for the White. We can guess at who's pitching for the White Sox, but obviously if Cueto is good enough to pitch, he maybe pitches Tuesday. There's nobody listed, but worst case, if Johnny's just, he's got vertigo or something, then I'm guessing Dylan Cease Tuesday, Lance Lynn, Giolito. That seems like the three. I mean, those may be the only guys left alive in the rotation. Cleveland, the only Savale is listed for Wednesday, Bieber for Thursday. I think you're squeezing Tristan McKenzie in there somewhere. Maybe he's a Wednesday go. I think the point is these two teams are lined up to throw their best at each other, if I'm not mistaken. So there's not going to be an inherent advantage, although as Jordan pointed out, I mean, I don't know if it cancels out half the pitchers on the White Sox being dead, but certainly Cleveland's gassed. And, that's the weird thing about being gassed. How deep can you dig? Obviously, Minnesota has got no dog in them, so they're not asked to dig anywhere. We've got tomorrow, it's Sonny Gray against Quantrill. That's sort of a toss-up matchup, both good pitchers. So, it's certainly not a clear advantage, and it doesn't spell an easy win for Cleveland. And of course, there will be no easy win for Minnesota, because they're already planning their fishing trips and trips to Sandals for the off season, because they just don't care. It's very clear. And that's a tough thing. You could say, well, Cleveland should be gassed. They're not going to be able, they're not going to have the Indians in them. Well, and maybe they will dig deep, or maybe from the get-go, they're just going to, the White Sox have a chance to come, to invite them in without any off day and just steamroll them. I mean, they absolutely could do. They haven't done that at all since first week of the season, but they absolutely could do that. And Cleveland is sort of primed for that. We keep waiting. We're looking at our watches to say, all right, when's it coming? And this week, the White Sox actually have their last say in Cleveland being on their heels. Anything about these pitching matchups, or anything about maybe the health of the White Sox, the ongoing saga of Luis Robert having one arm, that you feel gives the White Sox an advantage or disadvantage, with Cleveland? Because again, this is sort of the season.
Yeah, you making that point about steamrolling them, or is interesting, because I think it was either on the broadcast today or yesterday that they brought up that I think only four of the games we played against Cleveland were decided by 2 or less runs, which makes sense. I mean, we've hit Bieber pretty well this year. I don't know the stats on Savale, but I think it's been fine. McKenzie's been lights out, so he's really the only one I'd be afraid of. Yeah. But if that's like a Wednesday Dylan Cease Tristan McKenzie matchup, I mean, sure, why not? I mean that would be the game for the season. Really, would be Wednesday, because I think we could take Tuesday and Thursday against those pitchers. It's a matter of hitting Tristan McKenzie on if he pitches at all. If he doesn't pitch, then Cleveland's throwing out their season. They already didn't pitch him last.
Exactly.
Thursday.
You can't do
they
that.
They already didn't pitch him last Thursday. It's like if you pitch him Wednesday or Thursday this week, then or you don't pitch him at all, you're essentially giving up too. And maybe that's what they want.
Yeah. And that's the scary thing about this margin of error for the White Sox is Cleveland's got to win one. I mean, obviously it's not going to feel good for them to lose 2 against the White Sox, but they just got to win one. And that's an enormous win for them because it really sort of like a double win. So that's the scary thing. The Sox do have their backs against the wall. Joe, Melissa, anything in these matchups or just something you're anticipating about this week that could go in the White Sox favor?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to throw them a bone in back-to-back, matchups with skipping McKenzie. I don't see it happening. Savali, he's had a rough season from an ERA standpoint, but he's been pretty unlucky. FIP is below 4, so I mean that's decent. There's nothing really scary about him, but I mean the White Sox have not been sure things against decent but not great right-handed pitchers. So that's not a great matchup there either. And even if I feel like this is a little bit pessimistic. It's more of a gut feeling than an analysis and sort of or an opinion based on analysis, but I feel like even if the Guardians were trotting out 3 minor league arms, they'd still find a way to win one game because Jose Ramirez would just take over and just have 2 home runs and 7 RBIs in one game. Tough to see them winning 3 against this team, but I mean, crazier things have happened, I suppose.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's baseball. Anything can happen on any given day, right? But I having Giolito most likely going in this series, I guess, always kind of gives me anxiety because I don't know what Gio we're going to get. And more often than not, it seems like we get the one who just is not the worst pitcher in baseball, but not the 2020 version or even 2021 version of Giolito that we all loved and miss. So I guess that's the small part that gives me anxiety about the 3-game series is that, with Lynn and Cease, I mean, they've both been outstanding. And so, they can go up against the best of them, but then is our offense going to show up? Because they can pitch, right? And we could just go 0-0 and on and on and on, but somebody has to score a run, right? And it's like, are we going to get the anemic White Sox where we get 2 hits and no run production, or are we going to get the one who comes with 11 runs? It's just like there's no rhyme or reason or pattern, or anything that you can figure out with this team, which I think is the part that makes it so crazy.
Yeah, the offense's flex has not been sustained. So we can't exactly count on, because it's Cueto or Cairo, I'm sorry, managing the team, that somehow they're going to generate this great offense. It seems like the team itself is playing, obviously doesn't seem, they're definitely playing better ball than under La Russa, but that's not a guarantee in sweeping Cleveland, which again is what they really needed. Cleveland's magic number 13. And by the way, as I was looking up that magic number, it's always fun to look up the magic number for a team other than yours. I noticed, and I think this has already happened once, so it's a muted celebration, but we'll go to break celebrating the White Sox run differential now 0, no longer negative. Unbelievable. I mean, this team could finish with a positive run differential. It's almost like the offense isn't, as Melissa put it, anemic. It's almost as if it was just something we were seeing. We're going to talk about, a few players, maybe even a couple positive things. We're going to take a quick break, come back in a minute or so. Hang with us again. It's all you got. No White Sox baseball Monday, so hang with us. You're going to want to re-listen, re-watch anyway. But so definitely stick with us through a minute. We will catch you on the other side. 1 minute. White Sox fans, Brett Ballantini, lucky enough to host yet another Southside Sox Mothership podcast that coming fast and furious because listen, clock's running out. Even with playoffs, clock's running out in this season. You know, what, it could only go another like 6 weeks when the White Sox are crowned 2022 World Series champions, right? So, I mean, listen, clock's ticking. And more realistically, we've only got a couple weeks left in the season. So let's squeeze them in where we can and take advantage of some of these off days, by the way. Hey, Eloy Jimenez seems to not mind being a designated hitter. You know, it offended him back in the Ricky Renteria era. It was just offensive that he would ever be even replaced defensively late in games, much less not be a left fielder. And maybe because he's realizing that he could end up dead before age 30, maybe he's, you know, recognizing that designated hitting maybe isn't so bad, but he seems to have taken to it pretty well. He's staying healthy, though he continues to scare us on about every other game basis, just running out, you know, hustling out ground balls. But this guy looks like the headliner, not that slacker Dylan Cease. He's looking more like the headliner of that Jose Quintana trade a few years back. Just great to see this guy just being the pure hitter that he is.
He also has I checked today, his OPS, him and Elvis have the highest OPS plus on the team at 146. So, I mean, to me, that was super exciting to see that, especially with him being mostly in that DH role, that it is something that he is starting to settle into. And if we can get a full healthy season out of this guy, I mean, that could make a real difference for us next year, except that we still have a lot of people who play DH. But the OPS plus really getting up there was really exciting to see.
Yeah, I mean, on well, unrelated to, I mean, Eloy, who's hot, like literally like one of the hottest players since the All-Star break, like probably top 5. And that's saying something when the other 4 are like Judge, Ohtani,
yeah, right,
and a couple others. But it's like him and Elvis. I mean, they showed the Chris Kamka swap meet on the broadcast today. Andrus is playing better since he came to the Sox on August 19th than Paul Goldschmidt, who is also doing really well. So it's like I think. The weirdest thing about Rick Hahn is the weird pickups that somehow do really well. Him, Johnny Cueto. I guess that's it that I can think of currently. But it's like there's always Billy Hamilton and Brian Goodwin last year did really well, and it's like these pickups that you don't think were gonna do anything. Even Josh Harrison this year. These pickups that you don't think are gonna do a whole lot, and you're like. Man, why are we picking these guys up? Or in Elvis Andrus' case, we're like, oh, we need a shortstop. It's like these are the guys that are somehow doing really well and keeping this team afloat. Him and Eloy and Jose Abreu and his AL leading hits.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I can't blame Jimenez for wanting to play defense. I mean, he is a professional athlete. He's a competitor. I mean, yeah, if I was in his situation, I probably would have said the same thing. But yeah, from a fan's perspective, it is great to see him kind of be more open to being the designated hitter. And yeah, he's been raking. And yeah, I mean, he's not going to be the super useful player in the field, which, yeah, it's pretty clear he's probably, you know, somewhat of a clear step up on Andrew Vaughn, which isn't really saying anything, but yeah, Jimenez will likely never be as good as even like a 40 to 45 grade major league outfielder out there. Like he's probably a 30 to 35 glove in the long run. And if he hits like this, that's totally fine. And it's great to see him, you know, embrace that role.
I don't want this to just break down into a bunch of speed rounds, but that might be how this works out. I need to know from each one of you if Tony La Russa is going to return to the dugout this season, and if so, what the effect will be.
Look at none of us wanting to jump in on that one. My gut is telling me that he isn't. I think he's not, I don't think he's going to get cleared, to be honest, to come back. I don't think he's going to meet the metrics that his physicians are going to say he needs to meet. That's just kind of my gut instinct is telling me that from a medical standpoint, he's just not going to make it. Now, 2023 is a whole other story, but 2022, I don't think he comes back. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a good thing for him. It's a good thing for the ball club. Yeah, I would agree. I don't think he's going to return this year. And it would seem very, very forced, almost like Reinsdorf is almost like pressuring the physicians if he's going to make a return to the team in 2023. Like it's hard for me to envision that happening. I mean, the whole way that he Reinsdorf forced his hand on the organization back in 2020 with the hiring, that was very much forced with him being here in the first place. So I guess it's not impossible, but yeah, my prediction would be La Russa has managed his last game for the White Sox.
Ooh, wow, Joe, step out. Okay. Jordan, you going to make it a 3 straight?
Yes, this is the one time where I will agree with everyone else. Yeah, no, I don't think he's coming back. I think the point of no return was Tuesday. I think or at least like the last homestand. I don't think he comes back now. There's no. I think even he is seeing how well the team is playing, and it might even just be like I don't want to mess with the mojo the team has as much as I am possibly slightly a narcissist. But I think Cairo's been really good for this team. Whatever he's doing, maybe it's just not being Tony La Russa. And I mean, they have not played well when Tony's even in the building, so that could be a problem. But maybe that's just some fluke of the games Cairo has managed, that it just so happens that the 4 games that Tony's been in the building, we've lost 3 of them. But I don't see him coming back. I truthfully don't see him coming back, period, at this point. I think if you're not going to finish a season because you've got pacemaker problems or whatever, you really shouldn't be coming back for another year of a full season of baseball at all, really.
Joe and Jordan stepping out. Okay, I am going to be the contrarian here. I am not willing to say he's not coming back next year. I think they do everything they can to get him back. As Joe pointed out, Jerry Reinsdorf already shoehorned him in to a team that did not need him. And I would say it might actually be a good thing if he comes back this year, because it wouldn't be for stretch, which the nature of my question was, for these crucial games, do they need the Hall of Famer, making the calls? Okay, that's really what this is about. And I think we can all agree that's probably not happening. But I can imagine him coming back, if only because, like this really would be like, like a guy signs a 1-day contract, with the team, right? I could see him just wanting to go out on his own terms enough to say, all right, I'm going to manage the last game. And then that would probably be a good sign. I think we could look and tea leave that into saying, okay, he's not coming back in 2023. So I'm sort of rooting for him to come back just for that game, so we can say, all right, I signed my last, whatever lineup card. I mean, the whole story, not that it's any of our business really. I mean, we're just fans, about his health. But I mean, the idea that we knew nothing about a pacemaker, again, not that it's our business, but then suddenly it went from being something that was installed, or inserted, and it was like in spring training this year. Again, we're not owed, that information, but it's just the story keeps hopping around. So in any other organization, I think we could all agree in unison, all 4 of us saying absolutely no way. But I'll be contrarian enough to say that he will actually be back in the dugout this year, and that would be a good sign for 2023. But I would say one of the two: come back this year to say goodbye, or managing next year. I would say one of those is almost a certainty, because I've already been proven wrong about this whole experiment blowing up in the first place. So Tony for the rest of our lives. So we don't run out of time. Let's go around, and then maybe we can waste around Robin question as well. But what is going to happen in this Cleveland series? There are not many options. Cleveland sweep, Sox sweep, 2 out of 3, one way or the other. rain, I guess, natural disaster, boredom, a game that never ends. We've seen Cleveland almost do it. But realistically, what is the prediction for this week? And this really will be a glass half full or half empty type of answer, because this really comes down to whether you think there has any hope in these last 2 weeks of the season. Melissa, I'll call on you first. What's going to happen this week in the 3 games against Cleveland?
All right, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna say we're gonna take 2 of 3. We're gonna take 2 of 3 because we're home. Hopefully, there's gonna be tons of people packing the stadium, getting there, supporting the team. But I don't think the 2 out of 3 is going to be enough. But I think they're gonna put up a fight. I really feel like being at home, and if we can throw out Cease and Lynn in those 2 games, I feel pretty positive that we could take those 2 out of 3. But at the end, I don't think it'll be enough.
Yeah, I think realistically that would, if we assume Cleveland wins the final game of the Minnesota series, that's a stretch, but okay, let's assume that. I think that would have Cleveland leaving town essentially 3 games up. I think technically 2 games up, but realistically 3 games up. And that's going to be a lot to overcome, even with the series win. How sad is that we're that back in the corner? Okay, Joe, what's your thought? Rumor had it you had actually given up and congratulated the Guardians, but that doesn't mean the White Sox can't still jump up and punch them in the mouth this week, and they still don't win the division.
Yeah, they can. I mean, it's possible, roughly a 1 in 7 chance that the Sox make it to the playoffs. And it's not 100% over, but yeah, I have them winning 2 out of 3 as well. I think they'll come out strong. We discussed it a little bit earlier about Cleveland being a little bit gassed from their series in Minnesota, despite fairly weak play so far from the Twins. They did force a crazy long game late on Saturday night into the wee hours of Sunday morning. And that might pay dividends for the White Sox down the line, but I don't have them sweeping. And I really do think that a sweep would be necessary. So the 2 out of 3, it'll, in true 2022 fashion, keep the season alive, hanging by a thread. It won't be completely dead if they win 2 out of 3. Their odds will still be very long unless they take all 3.
They just won't let us close the book on them, Joe. They just won't let us do it. Okay, Jordan, again, you're going to just follow the pack here?
No, I'm going to be delusional here. They're going to sweep the Guardians, but the Guardians are going to win on Monday. So we're going to finish the season 1 game back. I don't think we're going to catch them if they don't lose tomorrow and we sweep them. So I'm going to say the weird outcome of we sweep them, but they win on Monday, so we end the season a game back because for whatever reason we're gonna stay locked and stabbed.
Yeah, that would be an even crazier sucker punch, is the sweep where everybody's like, holy cow, this might really be happening. Now they have the tiebreaker. All they got to do is tie now, and yet still fall just that short. Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, they do some crazy run of 5 of 6 or 6 of 6 against Kansas City end of the season. Oh, you can imagine. And just us sitting at home going, oh, you got to be kidding me. Kansas City loses again and again and again and again. It came up in, not to have a 10th inning here that is melodramatic, given that we just gave our big Cleveland predictions. By the way, you know what? I will be a contrarian along with the Rusa thing. And I guess that's what the host gets to do. No, I think the White Sox are not even going to be able to muster 2 out of 3. Everything says they should, which is why they won't. I think they will take 1 of 3. I think the games maybe will be close, maybe all 3. The Sox just find a way to lose one. They're just going to find a way to lose one that they should have won. And, then, yeah, I don't know. This is wishful thinking that I could just finally mentally just say, all right, turn it off. Let's start thinking about off-season programming. Maybe that's just my desire here, but that's the way the season's gone. They don't have the advantage. If they're coming in with the advantage in Cleveland, or even somehow even with them, I feel a lot better. The fact that Cleveland's, had their number well enough, Sox don't seem to be getting up for big games. I guess we'll see. And I guess it comes down to whether or not Tony La Russa will be in the house. That could really be the X factor that we're ignoring. It came up in sort of our staff talk not long ago about Jose Abreu's future with the White Sox. This is, of course, a completely different direction, but we got some time to fill, so let's talk about it. Do you think Jose Abreu is going to come back with the White Sox at least, let's say, for 1 more year? That his career will not end as of the end of the 2022 season season with the White Sox, whenever that is, again, with the parade, with the World Series ring. Will he come back? And let's reverse order. Jordan, give me your thoughts on whether Jose is a lifetime White Sox or what.
I have like several opinions on this. I think it's if we somehow, some way pull off a division win and win the World Series this year, I think Jose Abreu retires. I think he's played baseball for so long. He's been playing baseball since he was like 15 in Cuba. I think it's 20 years is a long time to be playing baseball at a close to, if not professional level. So I think if we somehow win the World Series, he rides off in the sunset. I think if not, I think he sticks around for one more year. And I think that's the Jose Abreu retirement tour. Because I don't think he wants to go anywhere else. I don't want him to go anywhere else personally. So I think he sticks around for one more year, tries for that ring. If he does it, maybe somehow he goes to somewhere like Tampa Bay or something. But I think he's gonna, if he doesn't stay, he's ring chasing, because that's what he deserves at this point. He's played so well for so long. That's what he deserves. So otherwise, if he somehow signs a long-term deal, we're gonna have to trade like Gavin Sheets or something, or Gavin Sheets probably, which might help us in the long run. But I mean, it would be nice to have a young guy like Gavin stay around for longer than that.
It would also be nice to let Andrew Vaughn actually play his natural position for one season of his White Sox career before he is inevitably pushed somewhere else. Joe, yeah, well, we got a lot of that. Joe, I don't know if your take is going to be different. What are you thinking about Jose?
I would love nothing more for him than for him to remain with the White Sox. I have, obviously, he's, despite a little bit of a power outage, like he's certainly falling short of his predicted home run total this year, he's still having a great season overall at the plate. And he's shown that he can still swing the bat really well. And however, the issue I have is that they just have a major stockpile of first base / DH types. And with the White Sox having this major payroll, which is higher than it's ever been by a pretty wide margin, and the fact that I believe that was like Han was largely allowed to take the payroll that high due to the anticipation of playoff revenue, it's likely not going to happen. Abreu, if he were to test the market this upcoming off season, he'd get paid, despite his age, he'd get a pretty hefty amount of money. And given the payroll situation heading into 2023, it's tough for me to see them making room for him on the roster. He's certainly good enough to get a serious amount of playing time in this roster. Yeah, I'd rather have him getting at bats than Gavin Sheets in 2023, but at the same time, Sheets is going to be way, way, way cheaper. So I would lean toward Abreu playing elsewhere in 2023. I don't think he's ready to quite hang it up yet, but hopefully Abreu is able to stay on the roster.
This really breaks down to whether Melissa will actually commit to her postseason deposit and tickets and her full package for 2023. I mean, she pulls the trigger there, that frees up the money for Jose. But with that pressure on you, Melissa, what do you think will happen? Joe sort of gave us the answer, what should happen. And that answer could be very different than White Sox will do, given that Paul Konerko sort of like crawled his way, into retirement. I think it's probably going to be Jose's call to make. But Melissa, what's your take on it?
Yeah, as a fan, I'm completely torn because I adore Jose. I mean, and yes, his power has fallen off, but his OPS plus is still outstanding. It's not too far behind Eloy and Elvis's. And so he's still, I feel like he's still got a lot of left in the tank. And if there's one thing we know, I mean, he's, knock on wood, he stays healthy, which we have a problem with in Chicago, and that he gives his all the time. And I I want to see him stay. If he wants to stay, I want to see him to stay in Chicago. I feel like he still brings a value to this team. And I honestly don't think he wants to play. I think Jordan said it too. I don't think he wants to play anywhere else. I mean, he sees the White Sox, his connection with the Cuban history, of the players and the team. I think his loyalty is there. And I think if the White Sox said, we're going to go a different way, I think he does retire. I don't think he'd play anywhere else.
Yeah, well, he'd take his ambassador role. He'd take his liaison to sign all the Cubans role, which that is just on the table, offered to
manager Jose Abreu.
Yeah, hey,
well,
he and Paulie's already preparing. No, listen, I don't know how much has changed in a decade, but I'm afraid not much. I don't see the White Sox, but even if everything says they have 300 first basemen and DHs and nobody else to play anywhere else, and Andrew Vaughn has to continue to borderline humiliate himself in left field, that's just gonna be the way it is. I just don't see, especially coming off of such a strong season. They let Paulie play when he was definitely should not have been playing any longer. And that might even speak for maybe the last couple of years of his career. I can't imagine they're gonna, even if this is a playoff window or whatever, and I don't see them giving them the boot, no matter whether that is what they should do based on the talent they have at hand with Sheets and Vaughn and 600 other guys in the system. All right, I cannot promise, like I did last time, what number 118 Mothership podcast will be, because we don't have any real days off. Maybe it'll be an emergency one because something great happened. Maybe the White Sox will sweep Cleveland and we'll just have to do a podcast. But we definitely have plenty to come. We got a bunch of minor league podcasts with Darren Black reviewing the Southside Sox. On the Farm podcast, we're going to review every affiliate. He's always got a lot to say, and I apparently sometimes smartly contradict him. Usually just sound stupid and let him talk. But we're going to do a ton of farm stuff. Obviously, we're going to do season wrap-ups as everything's winding up there. Not a lot to celebrate, as always, with the White Sox system, but there at least are some stars to highlight, so we will be doing that. We're going to have a Comerica Park little podcast coming up. Of course, Sharon Sox will be coming. So podcast-wise, we got more stuff than you're probably going to have time to or want to listen to, but you better. You've made a promise to us and you got to fulfill. You made a promise to Joe Resis. You are not going to lie to Joe Resis. Do not do that. Bad things will happen if you do that. But for Melissa and Joe and Jordan, I'm Brett. We did this podcast. Hope you liked it. We'll do another one soon. There's plenty others coming, but we'll have another Mothership podcast coming. I don't know. Let's say at least a week's time. And hey, between now and then, hopefully the White Sox will be like looking down at the rest of the division instead of the perpetual state of looking up lately at the Cleveland Guardians. We'll see what happens this week. Thanks everybody for joining us, listening, reading, all that stuff. Without you, we're not here. And we'll be back with you sooner than you're ready to listen to us again.